As a pastor, you get a lot of questions from people regarding certain passages in the Bible, regarding their meaning, and such is the case with the passage that we're looking at in this video from Mark chapter 7, verses 24 to 30, and it's a passage where Jesus actually denies someone's request, at least initially. Jesus had been very busy in the context where this passage takes place. He had been doing a lot of teaching, a lot of healing, and due to the pressures of ministry, he's looking to get a little rest and relaxation. Verse 24 says, "From there he arose and went to the region of Tyre and Sidon, and he entered a house and wanted no one to know it, but he could not be hidden." We're told here that he comes to this area of Tyre and Sidon, which, by the way, is about 40 miles from Capernaum, where his headquarters was. And the whole reason, it says, is to get some privacy, but he could not be hidden, we're told. And that was because of his miracles. He had just become too popular. And really, this is kind of a testimony to just how far his fame had spread at this point, even to the area of Tyre and Sidon. It says in verse 25, "For a woman whose young daughter had an unclean spirit heard about him, and she came and fell at his feet." We're told here that the woman had heard about him, or heard of him, as it says in some translations. And how did she hear about him? Well, the same way that people still hear about him today, by word of mouth. Even with all of our technologies, that's the number one way that people hear about Jesus, is from other people. And the word that's translated daughter here literally means a little or young girl. We don't know for sure how young she was. We don't know her age, but the Greek word would suggest that she was very young. And it says that she, quote, had an unclean spirit, unquote, which means that she was being tormented by a demon. Now, we don't know the specifics. We don't know to what extent she was possessed by this demon, but this does give us a clue as to how she had heard about Jesus. No doubt she had heard of Jesus' power over demons. In fact, in Mark chapter 5, just a couple chapters before this one, is the account where Jesus cast out a legion of demons, where a man was possessed by many, many demons. And afterwards, in Mark 5, verse 18 to 20, it says, Mark 5:18, "And when he got into the boat, he who had been demon-possessed begged him that he might be with him. However, Jesus did not permit him, but said to him, 'Go home to your friends and tell them what great things the Lord has done for you, and how he has had compassion on you.' And he departed and began to proclaim in Decapolis," that's 10 cities, "all that Jesus had done for him, and all marveled." And so the word of this account of this man of the tombs, as he's described in the Gospels, word had spread fast and far regarding what Jesus had done. And know this, demons are just as much around today as they were in Jesus' day. In fact, the Apostle Paul, in Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12, tells us clearly that we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. And so this is still a problem today. In verse 26, it says, "The woman was a Greek, a Syro-Phoenician by birth, and she kept asking him to cast the demon out of her daughter." Mark really goes to great length here to tell us that this woman was a pagan. He tells us that she was both Greek and, by race, a Phoenician. Phoenicia was the name of the country, but Rome had annexed Phoenicia to Syria, and so Syria and Phoenicia became one, which is why she's referred to as a Syro-Phoenician. And in many study Bibles, you'll actually see that heading, the Syro-Phoenician woman. One commentary actually describes her as a Greek in religion, a Syrian in tongue, that is her language, and a Phoenician in race. Mark tells us here that she kept asking him. In the Greek, it is in the imperfect tense, which describes a continued action. And she just kept at it. She kept at it. She kept at it. her background is important because it tells a great deal about the hope that she has found in Jesus. Again, we're told that she had heard of him, and the fact that she comes to him for help demonstrates that she believed what she had heard, and therefore she knows that he can help. You see, her background means that she lived in a culture that believed in idols, and no doubt she had already gone through whatever ceremonies and rituals that her idol gods required, and as a result, she had discovered something, and that is that these false gods were just that. They were false. They couldn't help her. So in coming to Jesus, she's putting into practice what 1 Thessalonians chapter 1, verse 9 says regarding the believers in Thessalonica. It says they turned from idols to the living God. What she had heard about Jesus made her realize that not only could he help her, but he was the only one who could help her. Verse 27 says, "But Jesus said to her, 'Let the children be filled first, for it is not good to take the children's bread and throw it to the little dogs.'" This is a truly amazing statement from Jesus. You wouldn't expect him to say this, but he's literally refusing her request. And it's an odd response. It certainly wasn't the response or the answer that she was expecting or hoping for. I mean, what does Jesus say? Look at it again, verse 27. "But Jesus said to her," now remember, the language tells us she's continuing to ask. "Jesus said to her, 'Let the children be filled first, for it is not good to take the children's bread and throw it to the little dogs.'" So whatever it means, and there's differing opinions about it, but it's clear that Jesus refuses her request. He says no. And really, to help to better understand the meaning of Jesus' statement, I think we need to look briefly at Matthew's account. In Matthew 15, verses 21 to 26, we read this. Verse 21, "Then Jesus went out from there and departed to the region of Tyre and Sidon, and behold, a woman of Canaan came from that region and cried out to him," that means that she's screaming, saying, "Have mercy on me, O Lord, Son of David." This is a detail that Matthew's account adds. "My daughter is severely demon-possessed." But he answered her not a word. And again, this is another detail that we see Matthew adding. He doesn't answer her at all. He's ignoring her. And his disciples came and urged him, saying, "Send her away, for she cries out after us." The disciples are actually encouraging Jesus just to send her away. But he answered and said, "I was not sent except to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." Then she came and worshiped him, saying, "Lord, help me." We see the urgency in her plea. It's interesting here in verse 25 that she drops his messianic title, Son of David, and she simply says, "Lord, help me." Again, she knew that he and he alone had power over demons. Verse 26 says, "But he answered and said, 'It is not good to take the children's bread and throw it to the little dogs.'" And the Greek word that's used here for dogs refers to a small household pet, not a big stray dog or some kind of an outside dog. We have here a picture of the family that's gathered around the table, and the pets are off to the side waiting, and it would not have been appropriate during the meal to allow the dogs or the pets to come and have some of the food. I realize some people watching this video probably do that at your own home, but in that culture that would have not been acceptable. The pets would get fed after the meal with the scraps that were left over. And in this picture, the children, the word children, are the Jews. Jesus says that they are his priority right now. Now, why does Jesus respond like this? I mean, we don't see this in any other passage. Why does he respond this way to a desperate woman who's being very, very sincere and being very, very respectful? Well, one of the reasons that Jesus refuses to immediately grant her request is that he doesn't want people interested in him just for what he can do for them. And that's still true today. You know, a lot of people are only interested in Jesus for what he can do to help them. Jesus doesn't want to be your genie. He wants to be your God. So with those added details in Matthew's account, go back to Mark and verse 28, and she answered and said to him, "Yes, Lord, yet even the little dogs under the table eat from the children's crumbs." She didn't deny the special place of the children or the Jews in God's plan. All she wanted was a few crumbs of blessing from the table. And it must have thrilled Jesus' heart when she took his very words and used them as a basis for her request. She accepted her place, she believed his word, and she persisted in her request. The household dogs do get the crumbs, Lord. The crumbs are meant for them. That's what the crumbs are for the dogs. Verse 29, then he said to her, "For this saying, go your way, the demon has gone out of your daughter." After her words, because of her words, he immediately grants her request and her child is healed. You know, we learn from this account, and again, it's unusual. It's really the only account like it in the Bible. We see that she's persistent in her request, she's humble in her approach, and she demonstrates faith. She's not willing to let her daughter continue to suffer, especially since the Lord of Lords and the King of Kings is right there in front of her, the only one who can help. Verse 30, and when she had come to her house, she found the demon gone out and her daughter lying on the bed. What really stands out in this story is the woman's faith. You know, in the book of Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 6, we're told that without faith, it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. When the seed of the Word of God lands on good soil, it always produces faith. Well, thank you for visiting The Essential Truth and for watching this video. Please like the video, give it a thumbs up, also share it with someone else that might be encouraged by it, and subscribe to the channel. All of those things are very helpful to the channel and very much appreciated. I also want to invite you personally to check out some of the other videos on the channel. There's quite a few videos like this one, which are brief Bible studies and devotionals where we look at passages of Scripture verse by verse. Also Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I upload Bible verses of the day, which many people have said are an encouragement and a blessing as well. So once again, thank you for visiting The Essential Truth. This is Pastor Dave. You have a blessed day.